Hello everyone, hope you're having a good day. Today is day 2 of week 3. We are continuing on in Matthew chapter 2. Our kickoff scripture is in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 25, which says, "See to it that you do not refuse him who is speaking from heaven." Again, that is Hebrews chapter 12, verse 25. Our subtopic today is the judgment of Christmas. We're going to again be continuing in Matthew chapter 2. The judgment of Christmas, the subtopic. Starting in verse 13, we want to read down to verse 18. The scripture said, "Now when they had departed, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, and said, Rise, take the child and his mother, and flee to Egypt, and remain there, till I tell you, for Herod is about to search for the child to destroy him. And he arose and took the child and his mother by night and departed to Egypt, and remained there until the death of Herod. This was to fulfill what the Lord had spoken by the prophet, Out of Egypt I called my son. Then Herod, when he saw that he had been tricked by the wise men, became furious. He sent and killed all the male children in Bethlehem and in all the region that were 2 years old or under, according to the time that had been ascertained from the wise men. Then was fulfilled what was spoken by the prophet Jeremiah. A voice was heard in Ramah, weeping and loud lamentation. Rachel weeping for her children, she refused to be comforted, because they are no more." Again, the judgment of Christmas. The judgment of Christmas. Tony writes, one thing happened that first Christmas, but you won't find it in any Christmas pageant or on Christmas cards. God's judgment. Verse 18 is a quote from Jeremiah 31, verse 15. Rachel was considered the mother of Israel because she was the favorite wife of Jacob, the father of the 12 tribes. And she was the mother of Joseph and Benjamin. Rachel was barren for a long time. One day she cried out, "Give me child, or I'll die." You can read that in Genesis chapter 3, verse 1. God answered her prayer, and Rachel came to be viewed as the mother of Israel. In fact, she was buried near Bethlehem. The image of Rachel weeping for her children was picked up by Jeremiah to picture the nation weeping over the children dying or going into exile, into Babylon, and God's judgment fell on a nation that had rejected him. Jeremiah was the prophet of the Babylonian captivity of Israel, a time of great weeping. So he pictured Rachel crying for her children. Matthew says this prophetic image was fulfilled in Herod's slaughter of the babies in Bethlehem, even though this was a cruel act from which Herod was responsible. He was the instrument of God's judgment on Israel for rejecting his son. You say, "Tony, that's hard. Plus, that doesn't sound like Christmas." You're right. It is hard, but it is part of the Christmas message. We must understand that whenever you reject Jesus Christ, you pay the price. Not because God is mean, but because he is holy and must judge sin. Unfortunately, the sins of the fathers often fell on the innocents. when you reject Christ, you remove his protection from yourself, your family, and even your nation. But when you accept him, he protects you as he carries out his will so that nothing can happen to you outside of his plan. Christmas is more than a baby in a manger. It is God with us. That's a wonderful message worth celebrating and singing about. But when God shows up, you've got a decision to make. You either worship him or you turn away. Both decisions are costly, but only worship is worth the cost. In the Think About It section, Tony writes, many people will wind up in debt because they want a nice Christmas. How much are you willing to pay to worship the King? Wow, Tony threw in a real curveball there. And I'm not going to elaborate a whole lot as far as the judgment is concerned. For various reasons, it would take me a while. But one thing that we absolutely got to remember in all of this is, Christ being sent here was to do away with sin. I don't want to say to do away with sin, but to be the blood spilled for sin, so that we can actually be completely, washed clean. And God is about justice and judgment, and we have got to keep that in mind. We live definitely in a time, and it's been going on for a while now. This ain't something that just happened in the last 2 or 3 years or something, but we live in a time where the judgment of Christ, or the judgment of God, and the judgment, or the justice of God, how much God despises sin, and the message of hell just wants to be ignored. And what we got to keep in mind, as Tony said, through this Christmas season, is that the whole point of Christ's birth on this planet was to spare us from that. It was to spare us from that justice, that judgment, and yes, ultimately being cast into eternal torment in hell or Hades or the lake of fire, whatever you prefer to call it. And that alone deserves, makes Christ worthy of our worship. That alone. We get a lot of other perks and promises when it comes to following God, but that alone is enough to make us, or should make us, want to worship him all the days of our lives. We're going to be hopping over into the Old Testament tomorrow, so get ready to dive into there. You all have a great evening. God bless you.